The alarm in his small maintenance ship blared as he scanned the sector near the mining station. He had been sent out to repair a drifting solar array, just another boring task that paid enough to buy food and keep the oxygen tanks full. He expected nothing more than bolts, wires, and maybe a cracked panel. Instead, his radar picked up a strange signal, something small, alive, and not on any chart. Cole frowned. "That's no debris," he muttered, pushing the thrusters to change course. The beeping grew louder, sharper as the object came into view. A damaged cargo pod spun slowly in the dark void. One side was torn open, metal twisted like paper. Cole's first thought was to mark the coordinates and send a report back. Salvage was not his job. But then he noticed the pod was leaking a faint blue light. Not mechanical, not normal. He docked. Carefully, his ship's clamps grabbing the pod like claws. The hatch hissed open and Cole floated inside. His helmet light swept across the wreckage, scorched walls, broken crates, strange symbols carved into the metal. And then he saw movement. Something, small, crouched in the corner, shivering. Cole froze. It wasn't human. The creature was no taller than his waist, dressed in torn armor that glimmered faintly. The figure raised its head, and he saw a face unlike any he had ever imagined. The skin was pale silver, the eyes glowing faintly. Blue, and the hair, long tangled strands of white, fell over narrow shoulders. Despite her tiny size, her gaze was sharp, proud, and furious. The being staggered forward, clutching her chest. Then, in broken but clear English, she shouted, "It's going to kill me, take it out." Cole blinked, stunned. "What? Who are you?" She fell to her knees, armor clattering against the floor. "No time," she screamed. "Parasite." "Inside me. They put it. It will grow. Then I die. Take it out." His first instinct was to run back to his ship, seal the hatch, and call for help. But when he looked at her again, he didn't see a monster. He saw desperation, pain, fear hidden under pride. Cole knelt beside her, careful but firm. "I'm no doctor. I can't just cut something out of you. I don't even know what you are." Her eyes burned into his, brighter now as if fire lived inside them. "I am Karen of the Shadar," she said with trembling pride. "I am warrior, but Parasite will end me before enemies arrive. If you leave me, I am dead. If you try, maybe I live." Her words struck him. She wasn't begging. She was commanding him even in weakness. Cole glanced around the ruined pod. It was falling apart, wires sparking, air leaking in faint streams. If he wasted time, she really would die. Parasite or no parasite. "All right," he muttered. "Let's get you to my ship." He slid his arms under her surprisingly light body. Her armor was cold, her frame small but solid, like coiled steel wires hidden under silk. She made a sound, half growl, half protest, but didn't fight him. Back on his ship, Cole laid her on the workbench in the engineering bay. It wasn't a hospital bed, but it was the cleanest surface he had. Tools and instruments lined the shelves, none meant for surgery, but better than nothing. Karen's breathing was ragged. She clawed at her chest plate until it clanged against the floor. Beneath the armor, her tunic was soaked in sweat. Cole saw a faint bulge beneath her skin, pulsing like something alive was moving inside. He swallowed hard. "What did they put in you?" "Hunter's parasite," she hissed, squeezing her fists. "Burrows to heart, sends signal, tracks me, kills me unless you—" She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Cut it out." Cole's stomach twisted. He wasn't trained for this, but leaving her meant death, and somehow he couldn't do it. He couldn't walk away from those glowing eyes that looked at him like a soldier ready to die. "Fine," he said, pulling open a drawer of tools. "But if I do this, you have to trust me." Karen gave a faint, humorless laugh. "Trust? Human? No choice." He found a sterilizer spray, a small plasma cutter, and surgical tweezers he used for fine wiring. Not perfect, but all he had. He washed his hands with sanitizing gel, his heart pounding. Karen lay back, jaw tight, every muscle stiff. She refused to scream, even as pain twisted her face. Cole steadied himself. "I'll need light." Karen raised a trembling hand, and the faint glow in her skin brightened, casting eerie blue light across the room. Cole almost lost focus at the sight, but forced himself back to the task. He cut into her skin carefully, the plasma cutter set at its lowest. The smell of scorched tissue filled the air. Karen flinched but did not cry out. Then he saw it. A small, writhing mass of black threads coiled under her flesh, moving like snakes. It pulsed with a strange energy, almost mechanical. Cole's hands shook. "That thing's alive." Karen's voice came through gritted teeth. "Kill it, or it kills me." He grabbed the tweezers and reached into the cut. The parasite recoiled, threads lashing at his fingers with tiny sparks. Cole bit back a shout as pain stung his hand. He pushed deeper, gripping the core of the parasite. It writhed violently, sending shocks through his glove. Karen arched her back, gasping, her eyes burning brighter. "Do it!" With a final pull, Cole ripped the creature free. It screeched, a high-pitched sound that rattled the walls. He slammed it onto the bench, pinning it with the cutter until it stopped moving. For a moment, silence returned. Cole's breath came in ragged gasps. His hands were trembling, covered in her strange silver-blue blood. Karen lay still, chest rising and falling slowly. Then, with weak but steady words, she whispered, "You saved me." Cole stared at her, the dead parasite still twitching faintly beside him. He knew this was only the beginning. Whatever had put that thing inside her would come looking, and now, by saving her, he had placed himself in their path. But as he looked down at the tiny warrior, her pride unbroken even in weakness, he knew. He couldn't regret it, because in that moment, in the vast silence of space, a human and an alien had forged the first thread of trust, cut from the edge of death itself. The silence in the engineering bay was heavy after the parasite stopped twitching. Cole wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, though the gloves were still sticky with silver-blue blood. The creature on the table looked like a cross between a nest of black wires and a living leech, its surface faintly sparking as if trying to come alive again. Cole grabbed a storage box and slammed it shut over the thing. "Not taking any chances," he muttered, pushing it far into a locker and locking the door. When he turned back, Karen was still on the bench, breathing shallowly. Her pale face glistened with sweat, but her eyes were open. She stared at him, the same burning pride in her gaze despite the weakness in her body. "You fight like soldier," she said softly. Cole let out a shaky laugh. "That wasn't fighting. That was fumbling with tools and hoping I didn't kill you by mistake." "Still," she whispered, "you did not run." Her words stuck in his head. He hadn't run. Even when fear had told him to leave, even when the parasite had shocked him, he stayed. Cole gently cleaned the wound and patched it with medical sealant from the emergency kit. The gel hardened quickly, closing the cut into a faint silver scar. "There," he said, stepping back. "That should keep you alive until you see someone who actually knows what they're doing." Karen pushed herself up on her elbows, though it looked painful. "No, can't go to others. Enemies track parasite. Signal already sent." Cole froze. "What do you mean, signal?" She pointed weakly at the locker where the parasite was locked away. "That thing, it sings, sends my location. Hunters will come. Soon." Cole felt his stomach drop. He looked around his small ship. The thin walls, the rattling pipes, the weak shields. This wasn't a warship. It wasn't even a proper cargo hauler. It was a mechanic's shuttle with a workbench and a toolbox. "If hunters are coming," he said slowly, "then we need to get as far away as possible." Karen shook her head firmly. Even half dead, she was stubborn. "No, running will not work. They will chase. They will find." She gripped the bench with trembling hands. "We must prepare." Cole studied her. Tiny, barely standing, yet speaking with the certainty of a commander. He almost laughed. "Prepare? With what? I've got a welding torch, some mining explosives, and duct tape, that's it." Her eyes narrowed. "Tools can be weapons. Station nearby has tunnels, yes?" Cole nodded. The mining station was built into a hollowed asteroid, its tunnels stretching like a maze. Many sections had been abandoned when the ore dried up, but the structure still stood. Yeah, old shafts, broken rails, lots of places to hide. Karen's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. Good. We use tunnels. Trap hunters. Kill them before they kill us. Cole wanted to argue. He wanted to say he wasn't a soldier, that he didn't sign up for this. But the determination in her glowing eyes left no room. And deep inside, he knew she was right. Running would only delay the danger. All right, he sighed, scratching the back of his neck. But you need rest first. You almost died. Karen tried to stand, swayed, and sat back down with a frustrated hiss. Rest later, plan now. Cole crossed his arms. Plan's useless if you collapse in the middle of it. I'll get some food into you first. He dug into the supply drawer and pulled out a ration pack. It wasn't much, just protein bars and water, the bland diet of a mechanic. But Karen took it like a prize. She bit into the bar with small, sharp teeth, chewing slowly. Strange taste, she muttered, but strong. Cole chuckled. That's one way of putting it. As she ate, he studied her. She was unlike any alien he'd seen in training videos. Small, almost fragile in size, yet carrying herself with the strength of a giant. Her silver skin shimmered faintly with every breath, and her long white hair, though tangled, gave her an almost regal look. Why were they after you? Cole finally asked. Karen paused, the water bottle halfway to her lips. For a moment, she looked like she might refuse to answer. But then she said, Because I am Shadar. My people are warriors. Enemy fears us. They try to break us. Cole frowned. By planting parasites inside you? Her jaw tightened. Yes. Parasite makes warrior weak. Signal leads hunters. They wipe us out one by one. Coward's tactic. The way she said it made Cole's chest tighten. This wasn't just about her survival. This was about an entire people fighting to stay alive. You really think they'll come here? He asked quietly. Her glowing eyes locked with his. I know they will. Hours later, Cole's ship docked back at the mining station. The main hangar was mostly empty, just a few drones moving crates, the air smelling of oil and old metal. Cole led Karen carefully down the ramp. She moved slowly, her steps uneven, but refused to let him support her. Inside the station, the hum of machinery echoed faintly. Most workers were off duty, leaving the place quiet. Cole guided her toward the maintenance sector, where unused tunnels stretched deep into the rock. This is it, he said, shining his helmet light into the dark shaft. Rusted rails lined the floor, and half-broken carts rested against the walls. Dust floated in the air, glittering in the light. Not exactly a fortress. Karen stepped forward, her small frame outlined against the dark. Perfect. Shadows, our allies. Narrow paths mean fewer enemies at once. She turned, eyes fierce. We make this our battlefield. Cole sighed. Guess I'll be the one setting traps. Yes, Karen said simply. Your hands know machines. My hands know blades. Together we win. Something in her voice stirred him. He wasn't a soldier, but her certainty pulled him in, made him believe maybe they had a chance. That night, Cole worked in the tunnels, setting up old mining charges near weak walls. Karen watched, offering suggestions that sounded more like commands. He wired pressure triggers into the rails, set tripwires across narrow passages, and used scrap metal to create barriers. At one point, while Cole was welding, Karen approached. She placed a hand on his shoulder. You do this with no training, why? Cole didn't look up from his work. Because if I don't, we're both dead. She tilted her head, her glowing eyes studying him. Most humans I hear of, they hide. They call for help. You do not. Cole smirked. Guess you've been hearing about the wrong kind of humans. For the first time, Karen gave a genuine smile. Small, but real. By the time Cole finished, the tunnels looked like a web of danger. He was exhausted, sweat dripping down his neck, but also strangely proud. He had turned scraps into weapons. Karen stood beside him, her small figure casting a long shadow on the wall. "Hunters will come soon," she said quietly. Cole looked at her, then at the dark tunnels. His heart pounded, but he nodded. Then, let them come, because now for the first time he felt like maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. The mining tunnels were cold and silent, stretching deep into the asteroid like veins of stone. Cole leaned against a rusted rail, wiping grease from his hands after hours of work. He had armed every weak point he could find, charges near support, beams, wires strung across corners, and heavy carts rigged to roll at the slightest push. He looked at his work and shook his head. "It's not pretty, but it might buy us time." Karen crouched near the floor, her small frame nearly hidden in the shadows. She studied the traps carefully, her glowing blue eyes scanning each detail. "Good," she said at last. "Hunters will not expect such tricks." Cole raised an eyebrow. "You sound almost impressed." Her lips curved into a faint smirk. "Almost." For a brief moment the weight of fear lifted, replaced by something lighter. But then Karen's expression hardened again. She pressed a hand against her chest where the parasite had been removed. The faint silver scar glimmered faintly. Cole noticed and frowned. "Still hurting?" "Not pain," she said. "Memory. Parasite is more than sickness. It carries purpose." Cole leaned closer. "What do you mean, purpose?" Karen's eyes narrowed as if weighing whether he deserved the truth. Finally, she spoke in a low voice. "Parasite is not only to kill. It is to mark, to track. While inside me it sent signal to hunters. Even now, after removal, it still whispers." Cole felt his stomach twist. "You mean it's still active?" "Yes," Karen said firmly. "Unless destroyed completely, hunters follow its call." Cole rubbed the back of his neck. "Great. So even though we ripped it out, it's basically a beacon." Karen nodded. "Beacon of death." The words hung in the cold air like smoke. Cole thought about the parasite still locked in the storage box on his ship. He remembered the way it had twitched, as if alive even after being cut free. "Then we can't keep it here," he said. "If it's broadcasting, it's like painting. A target on us." Karen shook her head. "Destroying it too late. Signal already sent. Hunters already coming." Cole swore under his breath and paced. He had hoped they'd have more time, but now it seemed the enemy might already be on their way. "Then what do we do?" he asked. Karen stood slowly, her small body tense like a drawn bow. "We fight. We cannot run. They will chase. But here, in tunnels, we choose battlefield. You set traps. I strike where they bleed. Together, we survive." Cole studied her. She looked small enough to disappear behind one of the carts, yet she spoke like a general commanding an army, and somehow he believed her. The hours stretched long. Cole busied himself checking the traps again and again, tightening wires, adjusting triggers. Karen sharpened her blade, a strange curved weapon that seemed too large for her size but fit perfectly in her grip. At one point, while she worked silently, Cole asked, "Why you? Why were they after you specifically?" Karen didn't look up. "Because I am daughter of Commander. Because if they break me, they break my people's spirit." Cole blinked. He hadn't expected that. "So you're not just a soldier. You're royalty?" Her jaw tightened. "I am warrior first. Titles mean nothing when blade is at throat. But yes. They wanted me alive long enough for parasite. Then they would show my body to my people. To say even Karen fell." Cole felt a chill. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a war of symbols. He realized that saving her hadn't just saved one life. It might have saved an entire people's hope. "Well," he said with a weak smile, "guess I picked up more than I bargained for." She glanced at him, her eyes softer for a moment. "Yes, you did." Later, while they rested near the tunnel entrance, Cole pulled out his scanner. The screen flickered with faint signals. A cluster of dots was moving closer, slow but steady. "They're coming," he said. Karen rose at once, her blade flashing in the dim light. How many? Cole counted. Looks like half a dozen, maybe more. She tilted her head. Hunters never come in small packs. Expect double what you see. Cole swallowed hard. That meant 12. Maybe more. Against 2. Fantastic, he muttered. Karen crouched near the entrance, her small figure tense and ready. Do not fear numbers. They bleed same as all, and tunnels cut their strength. Cole tried to believe her, but his heart raced. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for this. But he had made his choice when he cut that parasite out of her. He couldn't back down now. The first sounds came like whispers, boots crunching against stone, metal scraping against rails. Shadows moved in the distance. Cole crouched behind a broken cart, holding a makeshift weapon, a modified mining torch strapped to a pipe. It wasn't elegant, but it could cut steel. Karen stood ahead of him, blade in hand, her glowing eyes locked on the darkness. She looked impossibly small against the looming tunnel walls, but the air around her thrummed with fierce energy. The hunters appeared. Tall figures in heavy armor, their helmets glowing with red slits. Strange rifles hummed in their hands. They moved with cold precision, scanning the walls. Cole's throat went dry. One of them spoke in a harsh, mechanical language. Another gestured forward. They stepped into the tunnel. Karen glanced back at Cole, her voice sharp but calm. Wait. Let them walk deeper. Cole nodded, his grip tightening on the torch. The hunters passed the first set of traps. Cole's hand hovered near the trigger. When the leader reached the middle of the rail line, Cole slammed the switch. The floor shook. A section of rail exploded, sending shards of rock flying. The hunters staggered, some falling. Dust filled the air. Karen leapt forward like lightning. Her blade flashed, cutting through the dust. One hunter fell with a gurgling cry. Another swung a rifle, but she was already behind him, slicing through cables on his armor. Sparks burst as he collapsed. Cole ducked behind cover, heart pounding. He aimed his torch and fired, the bright flame cutting through a hunter's rifle. The weapon melted in seconds, forcing the enemy back. Shouts echoed through the tunnel as the rest surged forward. Cole triggered another trap, wires snapping, a heavy cart rolling down the slope. It smashed into 2 hunters, pinning them against the wall. But more came. Always more. Karen fought like a whirlwind, her small body darting between the armored giants. She used the shadows, her size, and the traps to her advantage. Every time Cole thought she was cornered, she slipped away, striking with deadly precision. Yet despite their success, Cole knew this was only the beginning. The hunters were strong, disciplined, and relentless. As he slammed another switch, collapsing, part of the ceiling onto a squad, Cole shouted, "We can't hold them all off forever." Karen's voice rang through the chaos, fierce and unbroken. "Then we fight until none are left standing." Her blade flashed again, and for a moment, Cole believed her, believed that together they might actually survive. By the time the dust cleared, the tunnel was littered with bodies and broken weapons. Cole leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. His torch nearly burned out. His arms ached, his lungs screamed, but he was alive. Karen stood nearby, her blade dripping faint silver sparks from enemy blood. She was bruised, scratched, and breathing hard, but her eyes still burned with fire. Cole forced a shaky laugh. "You weren't kidding about fighting." Karen glanced at him, then at the fallen hunters. "This was only first wave. More will come." Cole groaned. Of course they will. But when he looked at her, small and fierce in the flickering light, he felt something strange. Not fear, not despair, hope, because together they had faced the first storm and survived. The tunnel smelled of smoke and dust. Pieces of rock still fell from the ceiling, clattering against broken rails. Cole leaned on his knees, gasping for air, while Karen wiped silver-blue blood from her cheek. Around them lay the bodies of hunters, their red visors cracked, their rifles shattered. Cole spat out the dirt in his mouth. "Please tell me that was all of them." Karen shook her head firmly. "No, Hunters never stop at one pack. Others will follow. Stronger ones. Cole groaned. Figures. He rubbed his sore arms. I'm a mechanic, not a soldier. My body isn't built for running and fighting all day. Karen tilted her head, her glowing eyes scanning his tired face. But you still fight. You still stand. That is what matters. Her words surprised him. She said it with respect, almost admiration. Cole had never thought of himself as anything more than a man who fixed broken machines. But now, standing beside her in the ruins of battle, he wondered if maybe he was becoming something else. They retreated deeper into the tunnels, careful to step over the bodies. Cole checked the traps he had left untouched, resetting wires and adjusting charges. Karen moved ahead, scouting the dark paths with her blade ready. The silence between them grew heavy, filled only by the crunch of boots on gravel. Cole finally broke it. You've done this before, haven't you? Fighting like this. Karen's lips tightened. Since I was small, my people train as soon as we can walk. We live for the blade. Die for it if we must. Cole frowned. Sounds harsh, her eyes softened for a moment. It is life. We are small in body, so we must be strong in spirit. Enemies look at us and laugh. But when battle ends, they do not laugh anymore. Cole chuckled despite the grim mood. Yeah, I can believe that. You nearly cut a guy twice your size in half back there. Karen gave a faint smirk. Size is nothing. Speed and courage win wars. Cole nodded slowly, thinking. Maybe she was right. He had always seen himself as weak compared to soldiers. But hadn't he proven size didn't matter either? A mechanic with a torch had killed hunters too. Hours passed before the next signal came. Cole's scanner lit up with more dots. Brighter, and closer this time. He cursed under his breath. Another wave. Bigger. Karen didn't flinch. She crouched near the rails, studying the map on his device. They split. 2 groups. One comes from left tunnels, one from right. Cole sighed. They're trying to surround us. Yes, she said calmly. We must move fast. Kill left before right arrives. Cole felt his pulse quicken. That means charging into them. Karen's eyes glowed brighter. Yes, better than waiting to be trapped. Cole swallowed hard. He wasn't used to rushing headlong into danger, but when she said it, it felt like the only choice. They set up quickly. Cole armed a cluster of charges near a narrow shaft, ready to trigger once the hunters entered. Karen prepared her blade and crouched in the shadows. The sound of boots echoed again, closer and closer. Cole's hands shook as he held the detonator. His heart hammered against his ribs. The hunters entered the shaft, 5 of them, armored and armed. Cole pressed the switch. A thunderous blast shook the tunnel. Rocks rained from the ceiling, crushing 2 hunters instantly. The others staggered in the chaos, coughing and stumbling. Karen leapt from the shadows like lightning. Her blade slashed, cutting through armor joints. Cole rushed forward with his torch, striking at weapons, melting rifles before they could fire. The fight was quick and brutal. Within minutes, the hunters lay broken. Cole leaned against the wall, breathing hard. I can't believe that worked. Karen's eyes sparkled faintly. You doubt too much. Doubt makes hands slow. He smirked. I guess I'll leave the speeches to you. But then the ground trembled. The second group was close. They raced back to the central tunnels. Cole's lungs burned, but adrenaline pushed him forward. When they reached the crossroads, the sound of metal boots thundered from the right path. This time there were more. At least 8, maybe 10. Their glowing red visors lit the tunnel like fireflies. Cole's hands shook as he gripped his torch. 10 against 2. Odds aren't great. Karen stood tall, her blade glowing faintly in the dim light. She turned to him, her voice sharp. Numbers mean nothing. Trust me. Trust yourself. Cole nodded, forcing courage into his chest. All right, let's give them hell. The battle was chaos. Hunters surged forward, rifles firing bright streaks of plasma. Cole dove behind a cart, sparks flying as shots tore into the walls. Karen darted between shadows, a blur of silver and white, striking with deadly speed. Cole triggered another trap. A wall collapsed, burying 2 hunters in rubble. He swung his torch at another, cutting through the barrel of a rifle before the blast reached him. Karen danced around giants, slashing tendons, cutting cables. Her blade hummed as it bit into armor. For every enemy that turned toward Cole, she struck from the side, saving him again and again. But the hunters were strong. They fought back with precision, their rifles and blades forcing Karen to dodge constantly. One slammed a heavy fist into the ground, sending her sprawling. Cole's chest tightened. Without thinking, he rushed forward, swinging his torch. The flame cut across the hunter's chest plate, forcing the giant back. Cole grabbed Karen's arm, pulling her up. "You good?" She gave him a fierce grin, blood on her lip. "Better with you." For the first time, Cole felt it, not just survival, but partnership. He wasn't fighting alone. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. Side by side with her, he was something more. The fight dragged on. Cole's arms screamed with exhaustion, his torch sputtering low. Karen's movements slowed, her wounds taking their toll. But together, they refused to fall. Finally, Cole triggered the last set of charges. The blast tore through the tunnel, sending shockwaves that collapsed the ceiling. The remaining hunters were crushed or buried under tons of stone. Silence fell. Dust choked the air. Cole dropped his torch, collapsing to his knees. His chest heaved, his vision blurred. He thought his body might finally give out. Karen stood over him, her blade still in her hand. She was bleeding, trembling, but unbroken. She reached down and pulled him to his feet. "You are warrior now," she said softly. Cole laughed weakly. "Guess I got promoted." She tilted her head, her glowing eyes warm. "No, not promoted. Revealed. The warrior was always there. You only needed battle to see it." Her words struck deep, filling him with pride he had never felt before. He wasn't just fixing broken machines anymore. He was fixing something larger, fighting for life itself. They limped deeper into the tunnels, away from the ruined battlefield. Cole leaned on the wall for support, every step heavy. Karen walked beside him, small yet steady, her presence keeping him upright. "We can't stay here," Cole muttered. "If there are more waves, we'll run out of traps, out of strength." Karen nodded. "Yes, we must find way to end Hunt completely." Cole looked at her. "And how do we do that?" She stopped, her eyes glowing brighter in the dark. "We strike at their heart, find Commander, cut the head, and the Hunt dies." Cole swallowed. The idea terrified him. Going after the leader meant leaving the safety of the tunnels, facing even greater danger. But when she said it, her voice filled with conviction. He believed it was possible. "All right," he said at last. "Then we go after the Commander." Karen placed her small hand on his arm. "Together." Cole nodded firmly. "Together." And in that moment, the mechanic and the tiny warrior were no longer just survivors. They were partners, ready to face whatever came next. The tunnels were quiet again, but it was the kind of silence that made Cole's skin crawl. Dust hung heavy in the air, broken rails twisted at odd angles, and the faint smell of smoke lingered. Cole leaned against the wall, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. His hands trembled from both fatigue and adrenaline. Beside him, Karen stood with her blade resting at her side. Her silver skin glistened faintly with sweat, and her white hair clung to her face. She looked tired, bruised, and battered, but her eyes still burned with the same blue fire. Cole forced himself to speak. "If we're going after this commander of theirs, we'll need a plan." Karen nodded. "Yes, Commander controls Hunt. Without him, the hunters scatter. But Commander will not be weak. He will expect us." Cole smirked despite his exhaustion. "Good. That means he won't expect a human mechanic and a tiny alien warrior to be crazy enough to come straight for him." For the first time since they met, Karen let out a small laugh. It was rough, tired, but genuine. "Perhaps you are more Shidar than human." They left the ruined tunnels and returned to Cole's ship. The parasite was still locked away inside the storage locker, twitching faintly as if it sensed the coming battle. Cole stared at it with disgust. That thing's nothing but trouble. Karen's face hardened. It is symbol of enemy's cowardice, but now it may serve us. Cole turned to her confused. What do you mean? She tapped the locker. We use it as bait. Parasite still calls. If we carry it with us, it will draw Commander directly. We will not chase him. He will chase us. Cole frowned. That's risky. Her glowing eyes met his. Everything is risk, but this gives us chance. Cole sighed, rubbing his temples. All right. Bait it is. They prepared the ship. Cole patched damaged panels and double-checked the thrusters. Karen sharpened her blade and cleaned her armor, even though it was dented and cracked. The small ship wasn't meant for battle, but together they turned it into a trap. As they worked, Cole noticed how Karen moved. Even tired and wounded, she carried herself with pride. Like every motion was a statement of strength. She wasn't just surviving, she was proving herself. Karen, Cole said quietly, why didn't you give up back there? Most people would have broken after what you went through. She paused, her hands tightening on the blade's hilt. Because my people cannot afford weakness. If I fall, my enemies win. If I stand, even when death comes close, my people know Shaidar, still live. Cole studied her. She was small, almost fragile-looking, but her spirit was stronger than any soldier he had ever heard of. He realized that saving her life had not just saved a warrior, it had saved a symbol of hope. And strangely, she had become his hope too. A scanner beeped. A new signal appeared, stronger than before, pulsing like a heartbeat. Cole's chest tightened. That has to be their commander. Karen's eyes narrowed. Yes. He comes. Cole adjusted the controls, guiding the ship into the wide, empty void outside the station. The stars stretched endlessly around them, cold and silent. Minutes passed. Then the enemy appeared. A massive ship slid out of the darkness, its hull black as stone, its red lights glowing like eyes. Smaller hunter craft flanked it, forming a deadly formation. Cole's throat went dry. That's bigger than I expected. Karen stepped closer, her small frame steady. Do not fear. We only need commander, not ship, not army. Cole nodded, his hands tightening on the controls. All right, let's make this work. The commander's voice boomed over the comms, harsh and metallic. Cole didn't understand the words, but Karen did. She snarled, her eyes blazing. He mocks us, says the parasite brought us to our doom, says human is weak shield. Cole smirked. Guess we'll have to prove him wrong. He pushed the thrusters, guiding the ship closer. The hunters moved to intercept, their rifles glowing. Cole dodged between blasts, the ship shuddering as energy fire grazed the hull. Now! Karen shouted. Cole flipped the switch. The storage locker opened, and the parasite floated free, glowing faintly as it pulsed. Immediately, the enemy ships surged toward it, drawn like predators to blood. Karen gripped her blade. Commander will come for Parasite himself. He cannot resist. She was right. The largest ship's bay opened, and a figure emerged, taller than all others, clad in black armor that shimmered with red streaks. The commander. He floated across the void with thrusters strapped to his back, moving like a giant shadow. Cole's breath caught. That's him? Karen's voice was sharp. Yes, he is mine. The commander landed hard on Cole's ship, the hull groaning under the weight. Sparks flew as claws dug into the metal. Cole grabbed a wrench, his heart racing. Karen stood at the center of the bay, her blade gleaming faintly. She looked impossibly small compared to the towering figure approaching, but she raised her chin with unbroken pride. The commander spoke, again in his harsh tongue. Karen spat back words filled with fury. Cole asked quickly, "What did he say?" Her eyes blazed. "He says saving me was mistake, that I should have died, that my people will die anyway." Cole tightened his grip on the wrench. "Then tell him he's about to regret underestimating humans." Karen smirked. "I already did." The fight began. The commander lunged, his massive blade crashing down. Karen darted aside, her smaller weapon flashing as she struck at joints in his armor. Sparks flew, but the commander was fast, stronger than any foe before. Cole rushed forward, swinging the wrench at the commander's side. The blow barely dented the armor, but it distracted the giant long enough for Karen to slice deep into his leg. The commander roared, his blade slashing the air. Cole stumbled back, nearly falling, but Karen pulled him away just in time. "Stay alive," she barked. "I'm trying," he shouted back. The battle raged across the bay. Karen moved like lightning, striking fast, always aiming for weak points. Cole used tools and traps, throwing charges, slamming panels, anything to give her openings. Together they fought as one. Finally, after a furious clash, Karen leapt onto the commander's chest, driving her blade into the glowing core of his armor. The commander staggered, his roar shaking the ship. Cole grabbed a charge and slammed it onto the commander's back. "Now, Karen!" She ripped her blade free and leapt clear. Cole slammed the detonator. The explosion lit the bay. Fire, and sparks tearing through the commander's armor. The giant collapsed, crashing to the floor with a thunderous boom. For a moment, silence returned. Then the enemy fleet faltered. Without their leader, they scattered, their formation breaking. One by one, their ships turned and fled into the void. They had won. Cole dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. His hands shook, his body ached, but relief flooded him. Karen stood beside the fallen commander, her blade dripping with sparks. She looked down at him with fierce pride. Then she turned to Cole, her voice soft but strong. "You are no longer only mechanic. You are warrior." Cole laughed weakly. "Not sure about that, but I know one thing. I wouldn't have made it without you." Karen's glowing eyes softened. She placed her small hand on his shoulder. "And I would not have lived without you." They stood together in the quiet bay, surrounded by broken metal and fading fire, bound not just by survival, but by trust in the vast silence of space where enemies hunted and death lurked in shadows. A human and a tiny alien warrior had forged something stronger than fear. A bond, one that no parasite, no commander, no army could break.